Welcome to Visible Value, a reference library on recognition of youth work in Europe, developed by the EU Council of Europe Youth Partnership.
We launched the white paper on youth. I was also an actor in it by shaping it. But when you are looking at the white paper on youth, the word youth work is not popping up in it. So we were talking about participation, information, voluntary activities, and a better knowledge of better knowledge and understanding of young people. And then in the second part of the white paper, that was linked with non-formal education / learning and informal education and learning. And new was autonomy of young people in it. So, and that was in the EU. In the Council of Europe, they have a more long-standing tradition in activities for youth workers and training for youth workers. For the Council of Europe, youth work and youth work development was not a minor issue. So a lot of trainings were organized. There was also the community of trainers and all those things. So why in 2010? In that time, we had huge discussions with the Commission in view of shaping in the follow-up of the white paper of the EU Youth Strategy, the first one, from 2009 till 2018. And there was the first time that youth work was mentioned in it, not as one of the 8 themes, but as a transversal theme. The Commission needed a big event because it was a huge battle within the Commission to really recognize youth work as something specific.
Okay.
And that is very important. And Pierre Mérès, he was in that time the head of the unit and the even director in that time. He was very much in favor to organize something, not a normal conference, but really something big. And that was bringing us and say, okay, let's take with the 3 communities of Belgium, together with the Commission, the opportunity to organize something else. And then with the new head of unit in that time, we agreed on the wording of convention, because that also mean it gathers people or brings people together and also we are looking forward. What can be done in the next steps? So, but on the same moment, there were different processes. So I'm a youth worker, and I'm convinced of the importance of it. And in that time, we were developing the whole thinking process on the history of youth work or histories of youth work in Europe. There was another line going on based on a youth ministers conference in the Council of Europe. And on based of that conference, we were developing in 2002 the first Council of Europe portfolio for youth workers and youth leaders, together with Mark Taylor. And I was in the expert group to develop that in 2002. And that was the first time that we had an agreement at the level of the Joint Council on Youth on the DNA of a youth worker. When you are looking at the first portfolio, we agreed on that. So what does that mean, a youth worker? And what kind of competences and skills do you need to be a youth worker in Vladivostok, or in Ghent, or in Reykjavik, or in Istanbul? So I don't want to make a difference between a youth worker in the EU or out the EU. A youth worker is a youth worker. And this is very important to understand. It was not at all evident to bring together also the two institutions. But my perspective as a civil servant is the member state perspective, because all what we are doing is member states' competence. And we have to agree based on consensus. So we need everyone to find consensus. Our national agency developed a conference, not in an ordinary setting, but you have to taste and to smell and to feel the youth work attitude, atmosphere. And I think the team of Koen Lambert and Karin Jacobs from the administration, they really were very successful to shape and create that space. And so to make the audience of 400 people all over Europe also enthusiastic. It's a very difficult exercise, because we brought on board and we created a European steering committee, like you know from the third one now, with all the key actors in it, because I'm convinced we can only be successful to bring everyone on board. Everyone has to play his own role, but not only to play his own role, also to take their responsibility. And that is very clear, defined in Signpost for the Future, in that declaration, that we need the youth work community of practice to implement and to bring us forward. And there we shaped the whole engineering around a declaration with an editing team in that time, and that was different with the third convention, without someone of public authorities. So, and there were the researchers, young people and their organizations in the corner, also the national agencies, and then also the advisory council of the Council of Europe, and they had also a role. And then it's up to the civil servants and finally the ministers to do something with that declaration. And so that was very much shaped in that time, not perfect, not at all, in follow-up of the white paper. We brought together the youth work and youth policy community. They returned back to Ghent because the white paper was also welcomed in Ghent, so also for the convention. And then we were looking to youth work today in 2010. I asked, and that was also a difficult thing, I asked also to bring on board the researchers, because what we are doing is knowledge-based and evidence-based. As a policy maker, it's needed. And we asked Howard. We asked him to write a paper with a state of play of youth work today. And youth work is very complex. It's a space for activities and associations, but also you see many bridges are built between youth work and education, youth work and sport, youth work, and I don't know what. And so, when you are looking at the declaration, the community formulated a lot of political priorities like to promote and make youth work more visible. What is our quality of practice? And also the need of competences, and to define the competences, training, and the recognition and validation in that time. And of course, that's always coming back to sustainable support and funding. But also in 2010, there was another line coming in it, developed by Hanju Schild, who was in that time in the commission, and then afterwards the coordinator of the partnership. And he brought in the convention the statement of pathways towards recognition of youth work and non-formal and informal learning. So that we were weaving all those things together. And that is the momentum of the first European Youth Work Convention. The political answer was given by the ministers in the setting of in that time, 27 member states, because Croatia was not on board, that adopted the first resolution on youth work. And when you are looking to that resolution, almost all items of the convention were covered. And that is already a recognition, because for the first time in the EU, Commission and member states agreed on a resolution. And when you look at the first declaration, Nick, then you see also at the end, they formulated next steps already. So they were looking forward. We have to build up an agenda, an action plan, and all necessary resources has to be found for that. And the strong thing was that declaration was not a normal policy paper. It's of course a political document, but we translated it in a resolution as civil servants, adopted finally by the ministers. And there was bridges for recognition. So there were stepping stones. The community of practice were laying stepping stones between the white paper on youth, in my opinion, and the convention. And
right.
The force of the convention was to bring all those energies and insights together and find some synthesis in it. Or bringing a synthesis in it.
We hope you enjoyed this resource on recognition of youth work in Europe, brought to you by the EU Council of Europe Youth Partnership.